At first, it seemed like a desperate call for help. A man dialed 911, frantic and pleading, urging responders to come right now. He said his wife had been shot. He told dispatchers he was performing CPR and he wouldn't stop until they arrived. In the middle of the chaos, he made sure to mention two things: that his wife was a law enforcement officer and that he himself had once worn the badge. I'm John. I'm an actual 911 dispatcher. Today, we're going to talk about the case of the upcoming trial of Anthony Shea. Every good true crime story starts with a 911 phone call, and this one's no different. In fact, like some of the cases that we've recently covered here in the Comm Center, it's the first piece of crime scene evidence to be discovered in real time by 911 dispatchers just like me. Suspects like Anthony Shea start telling a story, and if it changes, police will know if there's a problem. If a 911 caller is eventually charged with a crime, it can also lock them into a defense strategy that can be their undoing. For the police and the suspect, the 911 call can determine everything. It was the kind of call that demands urgency, and in those first moments, it helped shape the understanding of what deputies believed that they were walking into. When deputies with the Orange County Sheriff's Office arrived at the home in the Rio Pinar area of Orlando just after 2 p.m. on October 14th, they found 39-year-old Lieutenant Ellie Shea with a gunshot wound to the head. She was transported to a local hospital where she was pronounced dead. Initially, the circumstances were consistent with an act of egregious self-harm, but investigators didn't stop there. Ellie Shea wasn't just another case. She had been with the Orange County Sheriff's Office since 2011, known among colleagues as a rising leader, someone described as a mentor, an advocate, and a steady presence in the department. As detectives began a more thorough examination of the scene and the surrounding circumstances, questions started to emerge. Attention quickly turned to her husband, Anthony Shea, 49, a former sergeant with the same agency. He had joined the sheriff's office in 2006 and had only recently left the department, resigning in August while under investigation for allegations serious enough that would have resulted in his termination. According to investigators, part of that turmoil stemmed from an on-duty affair which had led to tension between him and his wife. Anthony told investigators that the couple had had an argument the day before Ellie's death. The next morning, he said she called in sick to work and asked for space, requesting that they take their two young daughters out of the house so that she could rest. He claimed he left to run errands, including a trip to the grocery store, Publix in this case, and when he returned, he said he found her lying on the bed in a pool of blood with a gun on her chest. He also told investigators that Ellie had struggled in the past and had self-harm ideation, pointing to previous trauma as a possible explanation for what had happened. But as detectives worked to verify this account, they began uncovering inconsistencies. According to their arrest affidavit, investigators obtained text messages, surveillance footage, and an audio file that did not align with Anthony Shea's versions of events. Authorities allege that after Ellie was killed, messages were sent from her cell phone to Anthony's personal phone in an apparent attempt to support the narrative that she had taken her own life. What initially appeared to be supporting evidence instead raised further suspicions, suggesting the possibility that the scene had been manipulated. The 911 call itself also became a piece of the timeline. During the call, Anthony was allowed to speak at length, describing what he said had happened and reinforcing his account in real time. In doing so, he committed early to a detailed version of events, one that investigators will later compare against physical evidence and digital records. But let's listen to the call. This call, by the way, has been digitally scrubbed for clarity purposes so that you can hear Anthony speak. In this version, much of what the 911 dispatcher has been taken out. But I want you to listen to what the dispatcher heard when Anthony's call came in. Something dispatchers have to keep in mind when asking questions, even if it is rare. Am I talking to a murderer? Let's listen to the call.
911, what is the location of your...
I need help. My wife shot. My wife shot. 80. Help. No. Hey, 49. Yes. Yeah, she's a deputy. I used to be a deputy. Oh, God. Hold on. Jesus Christ. Please. No, Ellie. Ellie, no. I'm doing CPR right now. Yes, she's shot. Please.
Okay, so you need to paramedics. Just a moment, okay? Alright, fine, fire.
Yes, she's shot. Please. I need now. I need you guys now. My wife is shot. Ah, no, no, no. Jesus Christ. Yes, yes, yes. Come on, come on, come on. I don't. Yeah. Jesus, come on. Jeez, I'm doing CPR. Just get someone here now. We just got back from Publix. She's got a gunshot wound to the right side.
Something that is very common is that you'll hear sort of a backstory of how this call came to be. You'll hear extraneous details as we just came back from the grocery stores that mattered. Of course, if Anthony Shea is trying to establish an alibi for himself where he was at the time when that gun discharged, that would be how he's doing that. Something that's important to mention is that Anthony Shea, as a police officer and someone who rose to the rank of sergeant in a rather large agency, probably saw a lot of different calls for service in his time as a police officer. I would be shocked if he never had to give CPR to someone while working a call. Something that people who have given CPR or are CPR trained would know, or a 911 dispatcher who has given out CPR instructions over the phone. If you are giving good CPR with a head tilt, a chin lift, compressions in the chest, descending twice down, not letting your hands go off that chest twice per second, you don't have time to talk. You don't have time to plead with the victim. You don't have time to beg them not to leave you. You barely have time to talk to the dispatcher. When I'm giving CPR instructions to someone who's trying to save a life with CPR, I have to ask them to tell me what their progress is, how about how many compressions they've done, and to urge them to continue. What I'm hearing from Anthony is someone who is freaking out, probably not doing CPR, just based off of his breathing alone. It doesn't sound like he's engaged in that process. Could also be that Anthony knows that CPR wouldn't do much good in the case of gross physical trauma. When you're trying to do CPR and you're trying to circulate blood, especially to the brain, when there's a hole in that system, when there's no way to keep that pressurized, CPR doesn't really work. But let's listen to the rest of the call.
Yes, she's a lieutenant for the sheriff's office. Come on, please help me.
Another
Please,
extraneous
come on,
detail.
please.
Another extraneous detail, as for the 911 dispatcher, it's sad and shocking to hear that a lieutenant for the sheriff's office has been shot, but it doesn't make us work any harder or any faster. It's just one of those extra details thrown in that makes the call stranger.
Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Ellie, I'm sorry. Sorry. I should have left. I'm doing CPR, it's not working. She stabbed herself in the head. Oh. Yes, yes. My kids are downstairs. My kids. 40. Get up. No, get up, please. Go. Wait. She's 40. She's 40. 40. I'm doing CPR. Please. Please, for God's sakes. I should have left. Come on. Ellie, please. Don't do this, baby. No. No. Come on. Ellie, please don't do this to me. Girls, stay outside. Girls, go. The Glock Is, I'm fucking dead. Fuck. Ellie, come on. Ellie, please. I can't hear you. The side of the face. It's not working. I'm not going to stop until they get here.
It's admirable to hear that he would continue CPR and that he's not going to stop until they get there. That's something that we tell callers to do, not to give up on CPR, not to stop, that their only chance of survival is the rescuer that's in the room. But again, just based off of my experience, the way that I hear him breathing and talking, CPR is such hard work. It's like heavy exercise. Can you imagine going for a jog and then having a conversation while you're huffing and puffing? That's what it sounds like when someone's trying their hardest, especially a trained rescuer trying their hardest to do CPR to keep someone alive. What I hear instead in this call is a lot of open air, a lot of opportunity for Anthony to be speaking, and he needs to fill up that sound with the sound of him being shocked and grieving. It's even hard for me to tell if what I'm hearing are understandable histrionics, the sound of a man who just came home and found his wife shot, or if they're over-the-top theatrics. Hindsight says, well, obviously he's faking, even though Anthony Shea hasn't been convicted yet, only charged. We view his phone call with a bias. We need more context. For comparison's sake, let's listen to clips from two other men who dialed 911 in their homes after guns went off. The first is Caleb Flynn, the former American Idol contestant who's facing charges for the murder of his wife, Ashley Flynn. Let's go ahead and listen to that call.
Oh my God.
Miami County, 911.
Oh my God. Somebody broke into my home. Somebody broke into my home and shot my wife.
Are they still in there?
I don't know.
Okay, what's the address?
932 Cunningham Court, Kid City, Ohio. Please hurry. Please hurry.
Okay. What are you seeing?
My wife she's got 2 shots to her head. There's blood everywhere. Oh my God. Sir, please.
Ma'am, I need you to take a deep breath, okay? Do you still see anybody in the house?
No, the door to the garage was wide open. Please hurry, please. Oh my God. My daughters are here. My daughters are here.
Where's she at?
She's in the bed.
Are you with her?
Yeah, I am in the room. I'm looking at her. Yes, please.
Okay, do you guys have the door locked?
We have the doors to the garage locked, but into the house, yes. Please. Oh my God. Please.
Where is that room out in the house? My partner's getting them dispatched, okay? But I need you to answer my questions so I can get you help as fast as I can, okay?
With that call too, what we heard was over-the-top theatrics, somebody who is genuinely freaked out. And once again, we're talking about someone who is potentially facing charges for murder. I've said it before on the comm center that just because you are expressing emotions like these doesn't mean that you don't feel them. If you had been plotting and planning to take the life of your loved one, or even if it was a heat of passion type incident, looking at what you've done, whether planned or unplanned, and seeing the unspeakable violence, the awfulness that is a gunshot wound, and someone that you know so well and someone that you love stricken and taken from the earth, it can be quite shocking. And of course, personality plays into it too. But here we have heard 2 phone calls so far. A law enforcement officer who's been charged shooting his wife, another law enforcement officer, claiming that he came home and found her dead. But in Caleb Flynn's case, he's a regular civilian. He's a musician, someone who competed on American Idol. And he's claiming that he woke up in the middle of the night while sleeping on the couch and an intruder came into his house. And somehow that intruder made off with his firearm and also shot his wife, Ashley. The intruder did not steal anything, did not apparently even encounter Caleb, did not do anything to his 2 daughters. Caleb did not ask about the well-being of his 2 daughters. As far as I know, he did not even check on them. But you can hear that both men sound rather hysterical. And you have to ask yourself, if someone was going to shoot their loved one, shoot their wives, and dial 911 and pretend to be a hysterical caller, is this what it would sound like? But here's another call where the suspect admitted everything to police right away in the interview that happened as soon as the police got there. This caller was former law enforcement officer Leslie Dale Bouie in Ocala, Florida. He was convicted of killing his girlfriend, Pinar Wright. Let's listen to how different this law enforcement officer who admitted to shooting his girlfriend sounds when he dialed 911.
911, what's the address of the emergency?
I just had an accidental discharge.
What was that, ma'am?
Accidental discharge of a firearm.
Okay, ma'am, and what's going to be the address for this? And can you repeat it one more time?
No!
Ma'am?
No! Oh my God! No!
Ma'am, what happened?
Me and my girlfriend were cleaning my gun, and we were trading it back and forth, and I didn't know it was loaded, and I fucking shot her. No! I need an ambulance right now, please.
All right, ma'am, we're getting help on the way, okay?
Please. Oh my God! No! No!
Ma'am, I need you to take a deep breath. We're getting help on the way. All right. And ma'am, how is she doing now? Is she breathing? Is she awake?
No, she needs medic. She's shot in the head. God damn it!
Ma'am, is she obviously deceased?
I don't want to say that. No, Faith, no! I don't think she is. I can still feel a pulse. Hurry up!
All right.
I'll have this.
All right, ma'am. And where in the head was she shot? The front, the side, where?
Forehead. The front, the forehead. No! 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 Oh my God! No!
Already getting help on the way, okay?
God damn it, no! I knew I should have been doing this!
All three men, 2 law enforcement officers, 1 not. All 3 potentially guilty of killing their significant others. All 3 may be calling 911 with a guilty conscience. But how does it sound different when one caller is trying to hide that guilt with grief and another is trying to restrain his grief while admitting his guilt? There's no typical 911 call for any call for service, let alone someone who has died by gun violence. But it's interesting to hear the differences and similarities between these 3 callers. As the investigation progressed, detectives concluded that the death was not an act of self-harm. Instead, they alleged that Ellie Shea had been shot and killed and that her husband had attempted to stage the scene to make it appear otherwise. According to the affidavit, investigators believe Anthony Shea's actions were not spontaneous, but organized and premeditated, including efforts to establish an alibi and present a motive for self-harm. On October 18th, just 4 days after the initial 911 call, Anthony Shea was arrested and charged with first-degree murder. He was booked into Orange County Jail and is being held without bond. In the aftermath, the Orange County Sheriff's Office described Ellie Shea's death as a devastating loss. Colleagues remembered her as someone who brought energy and compassion to her work and who served with an inspiration to others in the department. She leaves behind 2 young daughters, ages 7 and 2, who are now being cared for by family members as they navigate the aftermath of her death. What began as a frantic call for help and initially appeared to be an act of egregious self-harm ultimately became a homicide investigation that within days led to the arrest of the man who made that call. It will be interesting to see how that trial shakes out. We'll be covering that here on the Comm Center just as we have in those previous cases. Make sure you check out our episodes on the Caleb Flynn shooting. Make sure you check out the case on the Leslie Dale Boy Lou call. Both cases we've covered here in the Comm Center. If you like this content, make sure you hit like and subscribe so that you can see more of it and so that you can help YouTube put this content in front of other people that would like it. We would appreciate it. And consider becoming a member.
911 emergency, police or paramedics.
He's going westbound on foot. Westbound on foot.